Hello, and welcome to episode 19 of Mish Mayhem,
Mish Mayhem.
the podcast where we take the schoolyard conversation of, hey, which one of these fictional characters would win in a fight? And we talk about it on a podcast.
That's what this is.
Hooray!
Hooray! I can identify podcasts by being
It means I'm in the right place.
Congratulations, everyone. You've made it to the podcast room. Podcasts play out of all the walls all day. Just tune in to the correct wall. And then you have to, sit by the wall and...
Can I just ask, do you ever actually listen to yourself talk?
I mean, some would argue all the time, and some would argue none of the time.
That's fine. Just because
and I think
sometimes I wonder if even you know what you're rambling about.
What is wrong with a podcast room where there are speakers lining the walls, and they each wall would be a different theme? So you'd have comedies, or gardening, or sewing. On different walls, and the walls will change each day, maybe every hour. Depends how we feel. No, not every hour. That's too frequent. Every day, and then you go and you'd listen to the speakers would all be playing quite quietly, so they don't interact with each other too much. But you just have to listen up, and then you go, oh yes, I want to listen to this one. Speaker 34, wall 1. Yes, that's what I want. That's what I want. And then inevitably, your favorite podcast means you need to lie down for an hour to listen to it, or be on the ceiling.
Righto. So I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt. Or Wade. Or Matt Wade. Some people call me Maid.
Anyone I want you to bring me tea and cake.
What? Oh, yeah. Okay, mate. Right. Welcome. So, as you all know, hopefully, last week we had an unfortunate demise and a fortunate victory. And Ryu from not Street Fighter earned his Mish, his Mash, his Mayhem, and enters the Hall of Fame.
Now I've got 3 out of 5. No, 3 out of 8.
Yes, 3 out of 5. What a weird number.
Yeah, I know.
This would be perfectly reasonable for a tournament. What could possibly go wrong?
It's called cheating. Get used to it.
One person just gets a bye to the final.
Yeah. And you still have to do a freeway. No, you wouldn't. Yeah, you would. You would. It wouldn't work.
No, they can do a bye to the final. So you just have 4 on one side.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You have 2 2s and then a 2.
Yeah.
So this week we're going to introduce 2 new characters from some of our favourite places in all of existence into the
Mishmash canon.
Fighting arena. That is Mishmash canon, yes. Not to be confused with, we're not going to put them in a Mishmash cannon, a potato cannon, and fire them out. That would be
amazing.
It would be amazing. I need a potato cannon. We don't have a potato cannon, nor do we have probably physical representatives of the characters who we are adventuring forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce them one by one. We don't have a reigning champion today, so we'll probably play rock, paper, scissors over the podcast for it. And we'll introduce them one by one, and we'll go through things such as a little bit about their backstory, what kind of weapons they use, what kind of skills they have, what kind of special defenses they might have, what their favorite graph is, what cereal they have on a Tuesday, and possibly even what volume they set their television to, because some people are really fancy about it and they're like, oh, I can't have 19, I've got to have 20. And some people are like, oh, prime numbers just to piss those other people off. Do you know what I mean?
I'm just thinking, I don't know anyone who sets their TV specifically to prime number volumes, except maybe you. I think that's the sort of thing you would do.
I don't actually set mine specifically to 7. A volume. It's 19. Fine for low volumes, but when you get higher, suddenly you're like, man, if I don't want it at 23, the next one's 29. There's quite a jump.
73.
Yeah, exactly. So it gets out of hand quite quickly until you get to a prime. You can just go 2 up. Then you're like, oh, that's too loud. But anyway, once we've gone through our characters, we are then going to roll the. It's not trademarked, but maybe it will be one day. The Die of Death.
The Die of Death.
Die of Death. It's our favorite icosahedron shaped friend, and it gives us a number, and this will tell us where our combatants will fight today from a predetermined list of arranged areas, some of which were contributed by you. Is that true?
Yes, there are fan submissions on there.
Some of which were contributed by you. So, maybe you'll be responsible for the death of one of your favorite characters. Who knows? Or the victory of one of your favorite
I've
characters.
actually seen recently there have been a few fan submissions that I haven't got around to putting on the list. I need to research a bit so I actually know what they are.
Fair enough.
There have been a few fan submissions recently that I will soon put on the list.
Excellent.
Also, I need to wait for there to be spaces and such. But that comes with more episodes.
It does. And we're going to make one of those spaces today.
Yes.
Speaking of today, jump to it. Do we have a personal preference for who we're going to introduce first?
No, I don't mind.
Seeing as I had a reigning champ for like 2 weeks, and I would have introduced him first. Do you want to take the helm this time?
Sure. I had a similar thought process myself, actually. So I can do that. So my clue about the person last week is that they are someone from an anime who is a master of taijutsu and has a very distinctive haircut jumpsuit combo. And of course, I'm talking about Rock Lee from Naruto.
Yeah. I mean, he is one of the coolest scenes in the original Naruto. Like, as in before Shippuden.
Yes, absolutely. It's his fight with Gaara, right? It's incredible.
I mean, absolutely it is, yeah.
I think it's the second best fight in non-Shippuden Naruto.
That is quite a claim, but honestly, it's been so long since I've seen all of Naruto, and Shippuden was so much better than Naruto. I don't remember most of Naruto, so you might very well be.
Yeah. So some things about Rock Lee. So in the Naruto universe, there are 3 schools of fighting. There is ninjutsu, which is the stuff that people want to watch anime for. It's all like the special moves and like shooting fireballs and electricity and all that sort of nonsense. There is genjutsu, which is creating illusions and mind games and tricks to fool people and such. And then there is taijutsu, which is just punching and kicking.
Or headbutting.
It's real life physical damage.
It's for massive physical damage.
Right, but Lee is only able to use taijutsu, unlike all of the other characters who can use all of them. I know. This meant for most of his childhood, despite his determination to be the best ninja ever, he was consistently bullied and sort of made fun of for the fact that he could clearly never be the best ninja ever because he can't do 2/3 of the ninja things.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate, isn't it? It's like,
it is.
I'm going to be the best student ever. I can do only maths.
Yes, it is much like that.
But then you grow up and you realize that you don't need to be the best student ever. You can just be like, do a PhD in maths, and then people will be like, wow, you're pretty fucking smart, aren't you?
Right.
Yeah. So it's a similar thing, except people go, well, you're pretty fucking good at taijutsu, aren't you?
Exactly. So yeah, and with the sort of enthusiasm and tutelage of his teacher, Guy Sensei, he basically just sort of went ridiculously OTT on training to become so good at taijutsu he could make up for the fact he couldn't do ninjutsu or genjutsu. To the point that in one episode of the anime, I think it might have been a filler episode, so I don't know how strictly canon it is, but he did manage to punch a meteorite in half.
Who? Rock Lee?
Yeah. He trained himself so powerfully that he could like just destroy a meteorite with punches. Right, yeah, so he's really strong and stuff and powerful, and it's crazy. Yeah, because he does ridiculously over the top training. Like, he'll do things sort of like he'll do 100 laps of the villages they live in entirely in handstand walking. Like he does. It's just mad, the training he does. And in the aforementioned fight against Gaara that we sort of briefly were saying about how cool he was, there was sort of the big reveal in that he was wearing ridiculously heavy training weights throughout the whole fight. That sort of, I mean, people are aware of training weights. I have some in real life that I occasionally wear on my legs, because it helps build up muscle and stuff. So, and they're usually sort of, depending on how much weight you want to put on, between like, I think half a kilo and like, I don't know, they probably go up to a lot, but I've seen them go up to sort of 5 or 6 kilos. But that's a reasonable amount of weight to have tied to your leg for a whole day or something, whatever, but it's not like a hugely substantial thing. Whereas these ones that he had in the anime, when he takes them off and he sort of drops them to the floor and like the floor shakes and there's loads of like dust clouds come off and stuff. So they're ridiculously heavy.
It's like a shockwave.
Yeah, that's it. And then he can move at like faster than your eye can see sort of speeds after he takes them off. It's ridiculous and amazing. So yeah, his training regime is ridiculous, which is why he's very fast and very strong. So the other sort of fun and interesting thing about him, which makes him a cool fighter, is he has a ridiculously low resistance to alcohol. So with even the slightest amount of alcohol, he becomes very drunk very quickly, which has made him become a master of the drunken fist fighting style, but almost by accident, because he doesn't mean to get drunk, because he's a very wholesome character. But on the occasions he has become drunk, he is a very violent drunk, and the others are all scared of him when he's drunk. But he also becomes very unpredictable and very powerful, to the point that there was a bit where he was fighting a guy called Kimimaru, who was one of like the strongest minions for like the main bad guy of Naruto. And Lee accidentally got drunk fighting him because he picked up a bottle of sake instead of a bottle of his medicine.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, drank the whole like bottle of sake, and then basically managed to keep his own against fighting Kimimaru, when realistically he should have been absolutely destroyed because he was very outskilled by the pure sort of power and unpredictability of his drunken fighting style. So yeah, he's very good at sort of regular taijutsu and drunken fist. I do have the name of his regular taijutsu fighting style. The strong fist fighting style is his normal one. So yeah, he can fight in both the strong fist style and the drunken fist style, depending on whether or not he is drunk.
That's better than the wanking fist style. Wait, what?
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 Do you want another example of how ridiculous his training is?
Absolutely.
He is trained so much at taijutsu that he has been seen fighting people whilst asleep or unconscious because his body acts on pure muscle memory.
I mean, pretty donk.
Right?
Can you imagine like accidentally getting into a fight with someone who's asleep and losing?
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to mess with sleepwalking people, are you? Because they're really dangerous.
Probably, yeah. They probably don't know any of their like limits.
Yeah, well, that's it. They have no sort of inhibitor on how strong and forceful they are and the such. And apparently a lot of sleepwalkers get very agitated if you try and interrupt their whatever they're doing, their programming, so to speak, their routine. Routine isn't the word, but you know what I mean.
If someone was sleepwalking on a cruise boat, I'd be like, whoop, maybe I should wake them up, because, you know, if they're in an unfamiliar place where they might end up hurting themselves. But if they're in their own home or somewhere where they're not going to do anything, then absolutely just leave them be. Don't walk around.
Have you ever done sleepwalking?
Not as far as I know, but I assume not.
No, I have a couple of times. The weirdest one was I was on holiday with my mum and dad. It was like the first year my brother was considered old enough he didn't have to go on our family holiday.
Yeah.
So my parents had decided to get me a different room in the hotel, so I didn't have to sort of just be me and my parents. So I had like the room directly above theirs.
Yeah.
And apparently like we'd sort of gone out for the day. They'd sort of said night and I'd gone to bed, and then they decided rather than going to bed they were going to go back to the bar for a while.
That sounds like your dad.
Yeah. They apparently got back from the bar and found me outside of their room, and they were just like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, do you have the key to your room? And I was like, no I don't. And they were like, okay. Well, let's just go to reception and get you another one, and we'll put you back to bed.
I see.
So yeah, that was a pretty weird sleepwalk I've done.
Fair chess.
Apparently, also as quite a young kid, I got up one night apparently sleepwalking and went and complained to my mum that I didn't get any shiny Pokemon cards.
I mean, that's reasonable.
Yeah,
I would complain at that.
all right. But yeah, so I mean, I've done a few sleepwalks. I'm actually also on a holiday once. I remember my mum saying she had got up to use the toilet and found me in the bathroom in our hotel room, like covered in blood, completely asleep. And she was like, apparently I'd cut my ear on something. It wasn't a bad cut. It was one of those things that looks a lot worse than it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but like she just initially found me like blood all down my neck and stuff. I was like, oh my God. And like, she asked me in the morning. I was like, no, I don't remember it at all.
She was like, but I remember. Don't do that again.
So yeah, like sleepwalking can be weird. So within the ninjas of the Naruto universe, their kind of power works on a thing called chakra, which is like an energy that flows through their body. There is within their body 8 gates which sort of seal off the chakra levels to stop them having too much chakra in their body and like an overload, and the power will like burn them out and stuff. But Lee has learnt to open these gates in order to increase the chakra that flows into his body to gain ridiculous amounts of power.
Unlimited power.
Right? So There was the thing that if you were to ever open the 8th gate, it was kind of like mentioned a few times throughout the anime. If you were to ever open the 8th gate, you would become phenomenally powerful, but you wouldn't be able to shut it again. So you would just eventually burn up and die under the sort of energy. And it wouldn't take that long to do, was supposedly the thing. But by the age of 12, Lee had managed to open 5 of the 8 gates. And by the age of 17, he learned to open the 6th one. So he could open those in cases of dire need and get ridiculous power from it. However, the more gates you open, and certainly the longer you have them open, the more of a strain it will put on your body and the more time you will need to recover, because it is incredibly exhausting and painful to have this much energy flowing through you. Because I believe when he did open the 5 gates in the original Naruto season, he then did spend like sort of a few months in hospital.
Did he not also spend the months in hospital because like Gaara totally fucked up his leg?
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. That's true actually. It was mainly the leg injury. But I don't know. He was out of it. Was certainly made worse by the fact he'd opened 5 of the 8 gates and
yes,
burnt up a lot of his muscle. Yeah, because that was it. Yes, his leg had been broken by Gaara, but he'd also reduced a lot of his muscle capacity because his muscles had literally burnt under the energy.
Wah.
But yeah, and then at the end of Shippuden, when they have like the flash forward to set up the Boruto season, it is mentioned that as an adult he has learned to open all 8 gates if he wanted to. But I won't use an adult version of Lee in this. It will probably be the Shippuden version. So that's kind of like his main deal. He punches stuff and kicks stuff, and he's really fast. And in dire need, he can start opening gates to give himself ridiculous amounts of energy.
Energy!
Yeah, which allows him to also move like even more ridiculously fast and punch even more ridiculously hard.
Happy days.
Yeah. So who's he going to be against?
Right. So I mean, last week I gave you a clue that he was. I'm pretty sure my clue, because I'm really bad and I never write down my clues. Was that if you found a 6-fingered man, 6-fingered? This man has 6 fingers. Get him! A 6-fingered man, he would get revenge for the death of his father on him. Of course, it is Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride. I hear people cheering in the background. Good.
Do you actually?
No. Inigo Montoya is a character from The Princess Bride. There was a novel, but I'm going off the film because I haven't read the novel. I've only seen the film. And that's Today's Society, people. In the film, he is a Spanish fencer who is currently working for a villain called Vizzini because there isn't much money in revenge. I believe before he was under the employ of Vizzini, he was learning under his father to do some fencing, I believe. His father was a sword smith and made a sword for a 6-fingered man because he was the best swordsmith, and obviously a 6-fingered man needs a special kind of sword. And the 6-fingered man, when he found the sword, was like, oh, I'll pay you for it, but I'll only pay 1/10 of the promised price. And so his father was like, well, I'm not selling you the sword then. So the 6-fingered man killed him for the sword.
This 6-fingered man sounds like a dick.
He is a bit of a dick, yeah, but it's fine. He dies. So spoilers.
No, I don't need to watch that film now.
Don't need to watch that film. So after the death of his father, he dedicates a lot of his life to learning fencing so he can one day find his father's killer and say to him, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And then kill the killer of his father. But after a while, he starts, there's not much money in revenge, so he comes under the employ of this man, Vizzini. That's where we meet him in the story of The Princess Bride. When the Princess Bride is being captured by Vizzini and taken somewhere, and they're being pursued by a mysterious man in black. And it is atop of the Cliffs of Insanity. That's the actual name. It's excellent. That he duels the man in black, and we get to see his all his skills. We'll get back to that. Ultimately, unfortunately, he does lose his duel to the man in black.
Oh no!
But, yeah, I know. But it's
Is
fine.
that because they've got like the noisy cricket and the fire guns, and like they can erase his memory and all that sort of stuff?
That's exactly why. Yes,
Cool.
It was Will Smith who defeated him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, there's no shame in losing to Will Smith.
Absolutely none. No.
No.
He's got a new film out apparently, which I
Well,
hadn't
Will
seen.
Smith fights Will Smith.
Yeah, I hadn't seen any adverts for it. The first advert I saw for it was actually a slow-mo guy's video, which of course isn't an advert for a film.
No.
But then they had Will Smith. Like Will Smith sucks at improvising lines. It's really funny. After he loses this fight, he becomes drunk again. But eventually, he finds his purpose in aiding the Man in Black to get the Princess Bride back, and he helps him, storm and siege a castle from some dickwad prince guy or something. So he does the honourable thing, and of course, in the process, he meets the Six-Fingered Man and manages to get his revenge.
How exciting!
So it is exciting, and I'm going to spoil it all right now. So, as I said, he's a fencer. As comes to light when having his duel with the Man in Black, he is an incredibly good swords master and has mastered many different styles of fencing. So, I mean, I didn't know that there were a lot of different styles of fencing, but there were many different fencing heroes back in the day.
If he's a fencer, he'd be doing lots more parrying than sort of offensive attacks.
No, there's offensive attacks in fencing.
Okay.
Otherwise, all you'd do is defend all day and you'd never hit anyone.
Well, yeah, but I just thought a lot of it was. It seems like a more, I don't know, from an outsider who has no experience and doesn't understand his point of view. It's a lot about like countering your opponent's attacks more so.
Yes, but countering is different to defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, countering includes defense, but it's not just straight up defense. Otherwise, you'd never get anywhere. Like, you can't win a duel by only defending.
No.
Unless you happen to be on a conveyor belt and they're at the end of the conveyor belt, which will first get crushed by a giant crusher or axe.
Yeah, or, go into one of those like a log saw or a rotating spiky wheel or something.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of a conveyor belt. Oh my god, we need to have conveyor belt as a...
Yes. Oh, yes, like a sawmill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, get that on the list. So, such principles that he's studied. Not if he's studied under. He won't have studied under most of these people because they come from various different times in the past. But includes Benetti, Capoferro, Thibault, and Agrippa. 4 differing styles of fencing, including quite linear, and by linear I mean like, when you're having a ball going very back and forth, to more geometric and circular stances. I believe the Thibault was a more circular one about getting the geometrical advantage over your opponent rather than say like a power advantage or something. So he's studied under many of these. His skills as a sword fighter are well displayed in his duel against Wes, even though he does ultimately lose. But he starts off dueling, and they're having a wonderful duel, and they're going back and forth. And then at one point, he's like finding himself a little cornered. And as he's cornered, the guy goes, "Why are you smiling?" And he's like, because I know something that you don't know. He's like, "What is that?" And he goes, "I'm not left-handed." And then he swaps to his dominant hand, and then starts to
no way. So he'd been doing the whole thing with his weak hand.
Yeah, he'd been doing the whole fight up until then off-handed. So then they start fighting, get back on the offensive again. But then, unfortunately, he's driving the other guy up, and then he's like, "Well, I know something you don't know. I'm not left-handed either." And then he swaps his hand.
No way. They're both crazy and idiots.
Yeah. What are you on about? It's a great fight. So unfortunately, he does lose that duel, but he's only knocked unconscious because, and I quote, "I would sooner throw a stone through a stained glass window than destroy an artist such as yourself. But since I can't have you follow me either," and then bludgeons him over the head. I say bludgeons. Bludgeon sounds a lot more vicious than it is. It's more just like I'm going to knock you out so you can't follow me. But anyway, that's like a good display of his swordmaster skills. He also has incredible resolve. So when he meets the Six-Fingered Man, he meets the guy, he gets off his line, and the guy just runs away hilariously. Like, you think they're going to get into like an epic duel, and he just runs away. So he starts chasing him through the castle. And obviously he runs into a room where the Six-Fingered Man was, and he gets a knife thrown into him. So then he's like, on the back, and the guy's going to come to kill him. And he, knowing that his killer's in front of him, he manages to like summon up the strength. And is like, my name is Ingoyo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And he like manages to parry one blow, and then like he goes for another one, and he parries it again, saying it again, and he keeps parrying, and then he like whips the guy and gives him like some scars that the guy gave him. And the guy starts begging for his life, and he's like, I'll give you anything. And he's like, I want my father back, you son of a bitch. Kills him. It's awesome.
What a great line.
It is a great line. There's some money. I'll give you power. I'll give you anything. I want my father back, you son of a bitch. So yeah, when he comes across, his raison d'etre, he has incredible resolve enough to put himself back from not a fatal wound, because it would have been fatal if the guy had obviously come up to him and stabbed him more.
Yeah.
But, a debilitating wound. He has the resolve to pull through that and fight for his life, his honor, and his raison d'etre for striking the final blow. So overall, he's a Spanish fencer who, he's a good guy. Oh, I didn't go through how nice of a guy he was, did I? Oh,
I mean, to be fair,
such a nice guy.
Yeah. If we're going to do a nice guy off, I also didn't go through how much of a nice guy Lee is.
Yeah, but you had a bit more to speak about than I did.
I mean, that's possibly true, but I mean, he's always a really nice guy. All he does is try and big up his teammates and talk about how great they are and encourage them to do good things. And he's very honourable to his opponents and thinks that people who are excessively cruel in combat should be punished.
He's like a modern day, who are the like war criminal people? I don't know. Like the people who like monitor them and say, no, you're bad.
Well, it's the Geneva Convention. That's the
yes,
sort of
possibly
thing where they've said you can't use chemical weapons in warfare and you can't torture people and things.
Yeah. He's a modern day, except he's not modern day because he's from Naruto, which is probably older day, but slightly different day. Yeah, it's like the Naruto version of the Geneva Convention. But yeah, sorry, I'll go through a little bit about how nice this guy is.
Yeah, go for it.
So when the man in black is climbing up the cliffs of insanity on a rope, he gets near the top, and Vizzini, the bad guy, he like cuts the rope and throws it down. So he's just hanging on to like the cliffs of insanity, and he tells old stay here and deal with him when he comes up. So he's like talking, they're like talking down. He's like, I can throw you the rope if you need a hand. And he's like, well, all that's going to happen is I'm going to come up there and you're going to kill me. He's like, yes, but like at least I can save you falling to your death. And he's like, no, I don't trust you. No too many Spaniards. Because he's like, what if I say I'm a Spaniard? And then he like swears on his father's life. He gets the rope. So the guy comes up, and then as he gets to the top, he goes to like draw his sword, like looking tired, and he goes, no, wait till you're ready. Have a rest. And then they like sit down, and he gets out his father's sword and he passes it to the man in black, and he's like, this is my father's sword. And he goes through the story about the six-fingered man, and then like lets the guy have a break and etc. And then the man in black's like, whoop, I should probably fight you now. And he's like, oh, are you sure you're ready? It's like, well, even if I'm not, you've been more than fair. He's like, oh, you seem like a great fellow. I hate to kill you. You seem like a great fellow. I hate to die.
I like that. That's nice. I mean, I know ultimately this is a show about people fighting to the death, but I think it's good to appreciate good people.
Yes, absolutely. Right, let's make them fight to the death.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck it, one of them's got to die.
Fucking one of them's got to might as well die.
So, speaking of all of your things you were saying earlier, this is our first ever fan-submitted arena. Yeah, I mean, there are a few on the list. Also, and this was submitted literally within the last couple of days.
Awesome. Lucky them.
Right. And I expect you to explain everything about this arena because I won't know.
Okay.
You're an expert on this arena. But today's fight is taking place
in my bedroom
on an oil rig.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Does it say what kind of oil rig?
Nope.
Okay.
One that rigs oil.
One that rigs oil. For those of you who don't know, which is probably most people, I used to work offshore on oil rigs. So I've been on a range of oil rigs such as semi-subs and jack-ups. I've not been on anything bigger, like platforms. Maybe I did go to one platform.
I don't know.
But
Think your favorite type of oil rig, and we'll set it there.
well, when most people think of oil rigs, they'll probably think of the platforms.
Yeah.
But semi-subs are probably the coolest ones
Okay. Well,
in terms of what they can, offer to a fight.
Yeah.
So, semi-sub oil rig, you're looking at probably a square base. By base, I don't mean that at the sea level. I'm talking about like the platform.
Right.
And then in the middle, there'll be the derrick, like the big pointy bit. That looks like a tower.
Yes.
And under that will be a hole that leads straight to sea.
Yes.
So,
oh wow, that's cool as well because that means it's like an arena death.
Yeah.
So if you fell off that, would it be high enough that you'd like die on impact?
No. The operating height of these is probably about 80 foot, something like that.
Okay.
So, don't go wrong. It's ill-advised. There are far better ways to get into the sea, such as the boats or climbing down ladders. But if you had to go into the sea that way, you'd probably survive. It's not insta-death. It's not guaranteed insta-death.
Okay.
Like, honestly, the most likely way you are to die from that is getting knocked unconscious by the impact and then drowning.
Sure.
Which is not fun either. But, that's... It's not very often you have to jump into the sea. I never had to do it once. So the soil rig is quite big. Well, it's not like super big. Maybe the size of a small car park. Not a small car park. Like a shopping centre car park.
Right.
Maybe that's too big. It's kind of hard to... You know what? Let's just look up some dimensions.
Sure. While you look up how big a thing is, I think it's worth saying thanks, Tom, for suggesting an oil rig. I don't know if you were thinking of a specific type of oil rig, but we've gone for a sub oil rig. Sub what?
Semi-sub.
A semi-sub oil rig. That means it's only half sub as opposed to a full sub.
All right. Okay. So the main semi-sub that I can remember is the Byford Dolphin. I remember it for many reasons. One, because I had a particularly bad Christmas on there, and two, because it's the oil rig where 4 divers blew up.
Wow. Is that why you had a bad Christmas there?
No, that was like quite a while ago. One of the divers blew up, but the rest of them just died.
Okay.
But it's still quite bad.
Yes.
But it gives me a length of 108.2 meters. About, I'll call it 100 meters square.
Yep.
You're going to have a helipad on there somewhere, probably off one of the sides. There's probably going to be, well, not probably, there is a like fully inside cabin / sleeping and welfare area.
Mm-hmm.
That was like on one side near the derrick. And then you've going to have what's called like the pipe deck, where you're going to just have a big area for storing shitload of pipes. And then there's going to be other areas around on the surface of the oil rig, such as third-party cabins, storage containers, cranes, skips, that kind of stuff. Okay. Very metal, very rusty, industrial and angular, and not super flat. There aren't many places where it will be like, like a footpath. Well, I don't mean a footpath, but if you're walking around on the ground, right, there might, if you're walking like up a road, you can walk on the road, you can walk on the path, but here instead of it, most of it will be designated walkways with barriers or slightly wider places with like grating and stairwells. So you're not looking at, field wide areas where you can just like walk freely.
No.
If you know what I mean.
It'd be sort of narrow pathways.
Don't get me wrong, there are a couple of those areas. But you're mostly going to be looking at smaller areas, either because it's confined by all the stuff I've mentioned or blah, blah, blah. And then there's the stuff under the surface, but we're probably not going to go down there. And that's just a mess of stairs and doors.
Okay. So you know the arena best. Where do you think the fight should start?
Sorry, I was going to say one thing I didn't say was obviously because it's a semi-sub, it wobbles with the sea. So your typical kind of operating conditions in calm seas, you'll barely notice the wobble at all. When I had the bad Christmas, if you remember that winter where like half the South Coast railway network fell into the sea. I mean, I exaggerate that dramatically, but it was going as far as 6 degrees either way.
Right.
Which doesn't sound a lot, but at 10 degrees, they can't safely launch the lifeboats anymore.
Okay.
6 degrees is more than you think when you're on a ship that's 100 meters wide.
Yeah.
In fact, I can work it out. Let's work it out because it will give you some idea of what kind of up-down motion we're talking about at the edges. 21 kind of meters.
Yeah.
So 10 meters up, 10 meters down. Somehow I got like 100 meters, and I was like, but that ain't fucking right. So yeah, you know, quite a reasonable distance of up-down, you can imagine.
Yes.
Obviously, that's only in the roughest of seas. So I don't know when we're going to do this. Maybe we should decide the weather randomly by finding out what the current weather is in a random city.
Can't you look up what the current weather is at the oil rig?
Possibly could. I have gone to a site called marinetraffic.com and I have found the Byford Dolphin. It is currently at port in Norway near a place called Lindgau Port near Holmedsnet. Oh, sorry, Sweden, not Norway. It is currently not raining, not very windy, and cold.
Okay, so relatively safe, just cold.
Just cold. It was a cold autumn night on the Byford Dolphin port in Sweden, not Norway. The helipad seems like the most reasonable place for people to meet.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was at port, they'd probably actually come on by frog, but we'll ignore that and pretend they came on by helicopter anyway. And you know, they both get off the helicopter. The helicopter flies away. It wouldn't do that in real life until like you were all in and then other people got on it. But whatever, they both get off. It's like blustering down, and they're like, "Whoa, what are we doing here?" And for some reason, Inigo's got a sword with him, and they're perfectly allowing that. The helicopter takes off, and as it takes off, they realize that where the once before was 7 sweaty men sitting between them, there is now the vast openness of a small helipad, and they see each other, and they realize that they are the people who must die. And Inigo goes, "My name is Inigo Montoya. You bullied Matt Wade. Prepare to die." I believe that's what he would say.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds about right. And then he would adapt, obviously, a fencing pose. God. Very side on, very pointy. He looks pointy, and he gets out his pointy boy.
His willy?
No.
Oh.
His sword. I mean, to be fair, pointy boy might also mean like halberdier or pikeman to people who watch Age of Empires streams. So they'll be very confused. But I just mean saber or foil. I don't know technical sword terms, and someone will berate me, and that would be reasonable to do so.
His fencing stick.
His fencing stick. Yeah, he gets out his fencing stick.
Right. Lee would probably take up a similar sort of pose, except without a sword, just his hands.
Yeah, I know the kind of one you mean, like where they've got the one hand like facing forward and the other hand in the like behind them, like 90 degrees upright.
Yeah. Like, ready to do some ninja-ing.
Or apple and pears.
Okay, so they're facing off. Who do you think would try and make the first move?
Well, I think probably Rock Lee would.
Yeah.
Because they're going to start some distance apart. Now, don't get me wrong. Because I think like one of the things that would be done at the beginning of like a traditional fencing match, not that this is a traditional fencing match, is that people might get like an idea just for how their opponent works. So they'll do some like testing kind of jabs or thrusts or whatever and just see how people counter them. But there was just a helicopter between them. There's no space for that. So he's not close enough to make any kind of like testing things. So he's got to get closer, but Rock Lee is probably going to close that gap first, I would have thought.
Yeah, because he needs to get in and do some punching and kicking and such. So he'll probably run in, try and get in close. So then, do you reckon Matey try and like fence him, try and give him a stab?
So what, is Rock Lee just running straight towards him? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's got to be his go-to, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It would be to start with. So yeah, I mean, like he's running towards him. I don't know much about all these different fencing styles, but one would imagine that certainly there's ones that are good against like using your opponent's momentum against them and getting an advantage. He'd probably be thinking of that in his brain and be like, "Oh yes, I've got this. I can like do do the Capoferro. I don't know if Capoferro is the right one. He'd probably get ready to like do a kind of blow where he would like side swipe or evade the incoming blow, probably which he expects to come from probably an arm rather than a sword, and like counter jab.
Yeah. So like Lee would try and punch him, and then he'd move him out of the way, give him a bit of a stabbing.
Yeah. So Rockley comes in. He goes for like a standard punch because he's like, manages to swish out and get a stab in. It's probably going to go, I don't know, somewhere in the torso area. I don't know. Maybe the shoulder-ish.
But fencing swords aren't like super sharp compared to other swords, are they?
No, they're pointy. They're not designed for slashing. They're designed for stabbing.
All right.
They are designed to pierce through things rather than slash things. So it's a small pointed wound. So essentially, because most of the time I think these duels were to just draw blood, like in a traditional kind of civilized fencing match. Obviously, if you were then fighting for the death, you'd go to the death or whatever, like in this one. So realistically, the only detriment you're going to get is like the kind of pain of being stabbed by something small, unless you get hit in like a vital organ area.
Yeah.
Which I don't think would happen on this first.
No, it would probably be, you just sort of in the side or something.
Yeah, somewhere in the shoulder. People get shot in the shoulder all the time.
Yeah. So I imagine Lee would let out some sort of yelp of annoyance.
Like, that's not taijutsu. That's not taijutsu fair. I mean, arguably it is taijutsu, but...
Yeah, kind of. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
it's not
ninjutsu, is it?
Well, no, but I mean, it's using a weapon. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, when he uses his nunchucks, that's taijutsu.
I suppose. So I feel like Lee would be like, well, the distance is relatively close now, so he's just got to go for some sort of quick attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd probably go back and try and punch him again, and I imagine it would be like a similar sort of thing. He'd get like his weight moved against him and sort of another like blur in the back as he sort of happens.
Oh, well, so you're thinking this time he goes even faster forward and...
No, he wouldn't necessarily have a run up this time because they're sort of closer together already. But he'd go back and try and do another attack. And I feel like a similar sort of thing would happen. Because I feel like the weakness of many of the characters in Naruto, certainly the more comic ones, is it takes them a while to learn things.
Yes. Is this a like Naruto or a Shippuden Rock Lee?
Probably a Shippuden Rock Lee.
Okay, probably a Shippuden Rock Lee.
So,
Okay.
I feel like this would happen 2 or 3 times, like he'd try and do an attack.
I imagine probably twice.
Get parried or countered in some way and then get jabbed in the back.
Yeah. I don't imagine he's going to make it more than a third, more than another time. Yeah. I think he'd like learn.
He'd probably then think, right, maybe I need to try and fake him out in some way. So would then make it look like he's going to do a punch and would then actually do like a sweeping kick or something.
Well, I mean, he's quite fast though anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So I think he'd, so he's gone for the second one and got another jab in the somewhere. That's going head straight on. And he does taijutsu. He can see that he's that Inigo is obviously stanced for linear per se combat.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think he'd be like, well, if I can get him from the side, like suddenly all that weapon that's facing forwards is no good to him because he needs to bring it around the side.
Yep.
So he'd probably like go for some old Gara style, coming in from one angle, try something, going in from another angle, trying something.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he's not, especially if he's a Shippuden Rock Lee, he's not super dumb anymore. Not that he was super dumb, but he's not like, he's more wise and etc.
So maybe what he'd do is initially he'd back off, put some distance between them so that he could do a run up again to make it look like he's going to try and run and do like an attack.
Yeah.
But then at the last moment, rather than doing an attack, he'd like sidestep and then attack.
Well, I mean, he can like do those ninja jumps.
Yeah.
We know the ones we mean where they go and it's like, where have they gone?
Yeah. So, I mean, he'd run up, make it look like he was going to attack head on and then do like an attack from like the side or behind or something instead.
Cool. So Inigo, he's able to move his sword quite quickly because it's a very light sword.
Yeah.
And he's trained to. They're not heavy swords, but it's going to be a defensive kind of trying to block rather than a he's definitely not going to be able to have an offensive stab because he doesn't really know exactly where he's coming from. He's just kind of got to intuitively guess. Guess is like the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Like intuitively feel/see where he's going and try to work out where to bring his sword round to.
Yeah.
So what side is he going?
To the right, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think he'd be able to sort of just know because I think Lee's too fast.
Yes, I think so too.
So Lee would get in and hit him with good punch.
Yeah, and because it's anime, unblocked punches naturally send you quite far.
Right. He does like the whole Steven Seagal style punch, doesn't he? Where it's like the bah, like with the fist up in the air. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And but yeah, and then it like sends them flying, like bouncing across the floor and stuff.
So this probably gets Inigo somewhere in the like upper torso. I'm assuming he came from the side.
Yeah.
And he's gonna go.
It was just, I imagine it's sort of a upper ribs to armpit sort of area, just like a.
Yeah. So he's gonna go. I'm not imagining like a launched through the air. I'm imagining that punch was mostly going flat and maybe slightly down. So he's going to kind of like tumble like a couple of backward rolls, if you will, like across the helideck, which is going to be painful as it is. Further across. So he's going to be near the edge of the helideck now, either side. So I don't know what 3 of the sides will be to open port. So while the rig is at port, it will be at full height. So you're probably looking at, I said 100-foot drop. But this is going to be more because it's A, at port, and B, the helideck is raised above the other rig. So you're probably looking at something like 150 to 200-foot drop.
Wow.
That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but whatever. We'll go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he goes off the side onto the rest of the deck.
Yeah.
then it will only be like 4 meters onto solid metal, which will also hurt.
Well, I don't think Lee would try and knock him off because of the whole honourable thing.
Yeah, he won't necessarily try to, but he might do it by accident anyway.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to. He wants to treat his opponent with respect.
But punch him in the face.
Yeah, but I think he's fast enough that he'd run up to Inigo before he could get up off the floor.
Yeah, so Inigo like kind of gets pushed backwards and is covering and drawing his sword up and trying to get up into a defensive position, looking forward. And as he gets up, he kind of notices that he can't even see Rock Lee, and that's where he gets like a sweeping roundhouse kick, probably to the back.
Well, yeah, I was thinking he'd do the thing where he appear in midair, kind of crane style, and like axe kick down.
Oh, I'm thinking he might go for a kick to push him more back towards the middle of the arena.
Yeah, no, you might be right.
Then he could do Then he could do the whole. Is it the Lotus? Is that what it's called?
Primary Lotus is like his pile driver sort of thing he does.
I know we're both thinking of the same move in the head. I just don't know what it's called.
He just does like a big axe kick thing, doesn't he?
He does do just a big axe kick. Anyway, so yeah, I think he'd appear behind it, be like that bit where he just like Inigo just catches him out the corner of his eye as he goes past. He's like, oh no, and gets bootlegged in the back and rocketed back forward across the helideck.
Yes.
And boosh, possibly a little bit further, but essentially back to the middle of the helideck.
Yep, but it'd be the same sorts of thing. Like, again, by the time Inigo gets up, like Lee's back there with his big kick ready, and like, bam, just sort of beats him back into the floor.
Honestly, he's probably going to drop his sword. Like, holding onto the sword one time, you can kind of be like, yeah, like I can imagine he might be able to do that, but after a second continued belt, I don't think he's going to be holding onto that sword.
No.
Which would probably just end up sliding across the helideck somewhere at some jaunty angle and being over there somewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm pointing over there.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. Definitely over there.
Oh wait, hang on. How do you think maybe like 2 inches to the left?
No.
And facing 30 degrees round.
Oh, possibly, yeah. It might be rotated a bit.
Yeah, okay. So we can agree, rotate 30 degrees round, but probably not 2 inches across.
No, but where you pointed, that's where the sword would be.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Got ya. Just so everyone at home is clear.
Mm-hmm.
On where the sword is.
Yeah. And then bam, Lee kicks him again.
So yeah, he's like, this time he doesn't even have time to get up.
No. That's it. It's just like a big like kick downwards sort of into the floor. And it does like the whole dust shockwave thing comes out of his body.
Yeah. When you're on the floor and you're like stumbling to get up and you're kind of like You know when you play crab football
Yes, go on.
and you're almost in like the crab football pose, so you're like recovering, your arms are supporting you, your legs are supporting your body weight, and he looks up and just gets the straight down into his like face, bang, and that's probably gonna really really hurt.
Oh, definitely. I mean, anyone kicking you in the face is going to hurt, especially if it's kicking you in the face. So you sort of go face first into a helipad. Which I imagine
Whoa,
is
whoa, whoa!
what?
Kicking you in the face while wearing extremely heavy leg
Well, yeah.
leg weights into the face, into the deck of a solid metal heli deck.
Right.
I mean, some might argue as a human, you probably wouldn't be able to take that.
I mean, not well.
Not well. How did he take it? Not well.
No.
To the face and not well.
I mean, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's not gone quite yet.
All right, so he's like woozy,
Yeah.
like in a stage where you're like, oh, like whoa, whoa.
Losing Mucho's blood from the face.
Yes, yeah, he'll be bleeding.
I feel like this is his chance to maybe do one thing to try and redeem himself.
Yeah,
What's he got? Not a sword. That's over there.
Yeah, it's over there, where he pointed. Rotate 30 degrees.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he'll be like, oh, my name is Inigo Montoya. You bullied Matt Wade. Prepare to die. And he tries to stumble up. But he's got nothing. What's he got? He hasn't got his fencing sword.
No.
He's not a martial artist. He might go for like a grab.
I don't know, actually, if Lee might just sort of help him up and give him a fair chance to submit or whatever, because of the whole being, he doesn't like to be unnecessarily cruel to his enemies.
All right, okay. So he says that. He's like stumbling and he goes for like a grab, like a kind of swooping, like desperation, tired, dizzy grab. And instead of like getting Lee anywhere, Rock Lee like grabs his arm, pulls him to his feet, and he's just kind of like stumbling there and he walks over. Is he going to give him his sword back?
No, oh no, he's not an idiot. I just think he'd give him a chance to give up and maintain his life.
Yes, but unfortunately that's not the law.
Well, no, we did say on episode 3 that if people want to submit, they can do.
That's true, but there's at one point in the duel where he's against the man in black, where obviously he knows he's defeated, and when he knows he's defeated, what he does is he just, he loses his sword for like the second time, and the guy's got his sword. He just drops to his knees and he says, "Do it quickly, get it over with quickly." And that's when the guy's like, "Oh no, I'll spare you." And
so he'd rather die honorably than give up.
Yes, I think given his losing of a duel, given how he reacted to that in a previous incarnation of it, that is probably how he'd go for it the same again. So if he if he realizes Rockley's coming in again for another punch or something, he'd probably be like, oh, the thing is, if Rockley's just helped him up, then he's not going to be in that situation. But if Rockley goes for another punch and then he lives, then he'll be in that situation. You know what I mean? Because then it's clearly bested. I mean, he's clearly bested anyway, but he's just been kadonked over the noggin with a heli deck, and some weights. So he's a little bit like woozy and maybe just going for the. Rockley would probably just go for a standard punch to the face because he doesn't need to do anything fancy at this point.
Which is a shame because I feel like he might do like a primary lotus just because it's a cool finishing move.
I mean, he's absolutely going to do that as the finishing move. So the punch would probably. He's not done anything fancy. He doesn't need to put all his weight into it. I imagine that Inigo would get, again, scraped across the floor a bit, but nowhere near as far as like the previous things.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, he'd like kind of drop to his, I mean, he's already on the floor. He'll probably just get up to his knees and be like, get it over with quickly, knowing that he'll never get to do his raison d'etre and kill the six-fingered man.
And then Lee, like realistically, Lee would be like, "No, I'm not going to do that because he's a nice guy." But that's not satisfying.
No, it isn't. So let's pretend that one of the rig workers chucks him a tinny quickly, and he's like, "Oh, thanks, I need some hydration." By the way, you're not allowed alcohol on the rigs, but they smuggled it on.
Not at all. Not even when you're off duty.
No. So describe to us, please, if you will, this lotus.
Okay, so one of Lee's sort of trademark combo moves he does is called the Primary Lotus, where essentially he'll do a skid up to them and then kick them into the air with great force. Then, due to his ludicrous speed, he'll jump up to where they are, and he's got all like bandages around his arms, and he'll then sort of use those bandages to kind of tie to himself to his opponent, and then basically from that make them do like he'll sort of a spinning headfirst pile driver into the floor. Is essentially what he does.
At which point Inigo's neck would snap in twain,
break, and potentially his skull would shatter.
Yes, that was my second thing.
His brains would spill out onto the floor.
In a head jelly.
Because he's not an anime character, he couldn't survive this like everyone else does.
In a head jelly covers the helideck, and they have to get out a wet floor sign. And they'd have to file a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. And, you know, normal people wouldn't be allowed to touch it. You'd have to get a special cleaner because it's a biohazard.
And then they'd get, you know, like, so in the weekly safety meeting, they'd be like, well, this guy died on our rig because he got killed in a duel. We do not have duels on the helideck.
Yep, that's it. From now on, no dueling on oil rigs.
Yes, duels would be forbidden.
New rule.
New rule. If it wasn't obvious anyway, no fights to the death on oil rigs, please.
God damn it, people. We didn't think we had to spell this out.
We thought this was fucking obvious, but there you go. Someone died at work.
It will be one of those new things that everyone else reads the safety manual and sees it in there. And it's like, well, that's only there because clearly it's happened.
Yes. Oh dear. So yeah, poor Inigo.
Yeah. I feel like
what he lacked was being an anime character.
Yes, that's it. I mean, it's cool to have like honorable offenses and stuff, but yeah, he just lacked the sort of crazy cartoon Japanese power required.
But you know, that's what happens when you mix people from various different
things,
canon
realms
to
of fiction.
I don't think any location would have really helped Inigo too much in this instance.
No, probably not.
Which is unfortunate for him, but you know, that's what he gets for being an honorable Spanish fencer in this world of fictional characters.
It's also the second fencer you've brought to this show. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with you bringing more fencers or people with other swords. It's just interesting it's been specifically 2 fencers. It's not a common form of sword fighting in modern fiction. What's your clue for your new character?
Some might say that they have the most ridiculous endurance ever, and he would say it's just a flesh wound.
Right. Okay.
That's all I've got.
Yep. I mean, I think I know who it is, and I think you're an idiot.
Why? You know that it's a great character to have on this show. You know it. You know it makes sense in your heart of hearts.
I do. It'll certainly be entertaining. Right. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. What a stupid thing to bring in to the wonderful spectacle that could be episode 20.
Like, don't go wrong. Like, I feel that if I'd rolled the top person on my list, it probably would have been the best fight. The second one would have been amusing, and this one will be probably quite similar, but more amusing.
All right, then.
I can't help what I roll. I can't help what's on my list. Well, I mean, I can help what's on my list.
No, you can't. No, you can.
There you go.
So, we have been part of TTSS Productions that you can find over on tinkertailorsoldiersponge.com.
Excitement.
That's where the excitement. Yeah, there are many a blog and a podcast there for you to enjoy, such as A Hat of Many Things, which is a podcast where they take ideas out of a hat and then they talk about it. And so there's lots of different random subjects on there, so this should hopefully be something you'll find entertaining, including a few episodes that feature Mr. Wade.
Most recent one of those, I don't know if it's out yet, is about dinosaurs.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It involved dinosaurs. Open the door, get on the floor.
Maybe one day I'll know enough about anything to be on an episode.
Yes. I don't know what topics there are.
But yeah, there's that you can go and listen to. You can contact us on the Twitter at podcastmmm, or you can email us using the address podcastmmm@gmail.com. Do this and let us know how you thought this fight would have gone, or let us know if there's anybody you would like to see doing these fights, because we like fan submissions. We're getting a few more fan submissions recently, and it's been nice and interesting and exciting.
Excellent.
Yeah, you can also suggest arenas for the fights to take place in. Like today, we had the TTSS Lord and Savior, Mr. Tom Wilkinson, suggest an oil rig.
And we made them fight on the helipad of an oil rig.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems a logical part of an oil rig for the fight to take place. Yeah, it's how you would get there and such. You know, I mean, to be fair, if we'd had less honourable characters, they might have been more inclined to try and throw people off the oil rig, and that might have expanded it out a bit more.
Yes. Or more mobile fighters.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts today?
God, something different. Something new and interesting. Final thought for the day is
Just a noise.
yes.
Cool. All right. On that note, bye.
Catch you all late.